Clerk, please read the next bill.
Senate Bill 1548 relating to standards of time.
Recognize Senator Kim Thatcher.
Thank you, Mr. President. A mere 13 days later, before you is an amended version of the standard time bill. And it is still has to relate to standard time, but it is very different. And here's where it's different. Instead of Oregon leading on the issue and having other states follow, we've installed an if and then clause, which means that if California and Washington adopt a bill or a law to observe standard time only, then Oregon will observe standard time. It just includes a trigger similar to what we had years ago in the daylight savings time, only at that time we had to include and Congress or the Department of Labor. So we don't have that, but we still have a trigger. It just keeps us in sync with the states around us. Please join me in voting yes on this amended version.
Discussion to the measure. Recognize Senator Aaron Woods.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, today I rise to address Senate Bill 1548A. While I understand and respect the intentions behind this bill, I must vote my opposition. I've heard from many people in my district, each sharing their unique views on this issue. Their feedback has been crucial, helping me to see just how much this bill would impact Oregonians' daily lives. My stance is not one of outright rejection, but a call for a different path forward, one that aligns more closely with the unique needs and benefits of our region. It is for this reason that I advocate for legislation that would commit Oregon to permanent daylight savings time rather than the permanent standard time proposed by SB 1548A. The arguments in favor of permanent daylight savings time are compelling to me. First and foremost, the mental health benefits associated with increased exposure to daylight cannot be overstated. The safety benefits are clear. Studies have shown that extending daylight hours into the evening reduces traffic accidents, a critical consideration as we strive to protect our communities. Economically, the argument for permanent daylight savings time is equally strong. Longer daylight hours encourage spending, bolstering local businesses and stimulating our economy. Oregon's unique geographical position makes the benefits of daylight savings time especially pronounced. Our latitude means that the shift in daylight hours can have a significant impact on our daily lives, from the way we work to the way we play. I understand the complexity of this issue and the sincere arguments on both sides. However, I firmly believe that the path to permanent daylight savings time is the one that best serves the interests of Oregon. Should our sister states, Washington and California, move in this direction, I would wholeheartedly support a similar transition for Oregon. In conclusion, while I stand opposed to SB 1548A, my opposition comes from a place of supporting an alternative that I believe better serves our state. I look forward to working with all of you to explore this alternative and to chart a course that ensures the health, safety, and prosperity of all Oregonians. Thank you.
Further discussion to the measure. Recognize Senator Lynn Findley.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I would like to thank the carrier of this bill for addressing some of my concerns. My concerns are I'm the only member of the 90 legislators in this building that live in another time zone. I live in the Mountain Time Zone. So when the carrier asked me what I thought would be best for Malheur County, I suggested that we stay on the Mountain Time Zone because all of our commerce, all of our news, all of our activities related to the Mountain Time Zone in Idaho. And she carved it out, and I appreciated the effort in that. The issue I have with this bill is if Idaho were to change by carving this out, it sticks us with the U.S. Code. Idaho changes, Malheur County can't change. So we would be off from Malheur County, we would be off from Idaho, and we'd be off from Oregon, kind of like an island out there. So I was told by the carriers, their best, they said, we'll carve it out, we'll fix it on, when it happens, we'll put in a fix. Mr. President, I'm a little leery of fixes. In Malheur County, we had a bill passed by the then Speaker, now Governor Tina Kotek, sponsored this bill to help the economic region of Malheur County to compete better with Idaho. And says, we will put you in a border region and would support legislation to make you more competitive with Idaho and work for that. So in the last 5 years, I've brought about 15 bills forward to do that. One bill has made it through. So the thought that I would have a bill carved out and fix the time zone inequities for Malheur County don't leave me a lot of hope that it would really happen, because it doesn't. You know, the proof is in the pudding. Every time we go through to try to make it more competitive with Idaho, it's never been the case. We can't get them through because reported to me, we don't like one-offs, we don't like this, we don't like that. So if this fix wasn't made, Malheur County would be 2 hours off of Oregon, an hour off Idaho, and just kind of in an island, and I can't support that. While I appreciate the efforts, I was told that a carve-out couldn't happen because we couldn't trigger off of another state. However, this bill, as it goes through, triggers off Idaho or off Washington or triggers off California, but we can't trigger off Idaho. I don't understand that. I'm just a simple guy from Eastern Oregon, but that doesn't make sense to me, so I've opposed this bill. Thank you.
Further discussion. Recognize Senator Bill Hansell.
Thank you, Mr. President. When this bill was before us, I pointed out that my District 29, on the entire eastern border of it and the entire northern border of it, it borders 2 states, Washington to the north, Idaho to the east. And that as the communities that are part of the counties, to have a different time zone, particularly to the north, which is the longest border, would cause a lot of difficulties for us, particularly in my area where we do a lot of commerce and interchange in the state of Washington, primarily Walla Walla, or even the Tri-Cities. So I said there were no triggers in the bill, therefore I was opposed to it. I want to commend the carrier of the bill. When it went to rules, they put the triggers in that I wish that I had hoped would be put in. In this case, both California and Washington are part of it. And so my vote, while it was no before, will be a yes today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Seeing no other in the queue, body, the carrier has requested to speak a second time. Recognize Senator Kim Thatcher.
Thank you for that. I need to make a correction. At least in my memory, I think I said that the daylight savings time bill that we passed 5 years ago would have depended on the Department of Labor, and that is incorrect. It would have been the Department of Transportation. But that was when we were going to go as a group of Pacific Coast states and make that application. But California never came along, and they're looking like they are reversing their position on daylight saving time, and that's why this bill is brought before you. Because if the Department of Transportation did not approve, then it would have to rely on Congress, cough, cough, and that is also not the direction that things are moving. So as far as Idaho is concerned, yes, there was a request to be left out of the original bill, and then when I was asking if we could have that part of the state follow with Idaho, I don't know if there's a miscommunication or what, but my takeaway from the conversation with Legislative Council was that they couldn't. I think it was because the bill has to do, the underlying bill has to do with the part of the state that's in Pacific time, which is all of the state except for Malheur County. So anyway, those are just a couple of things. And this just aligns us with moves that other states make. It doesn't have us jump out ahead. So I just want to make that correction. Thank you.
Further discussion to the measure? Seeing none, Senator Steiner, your closing.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just briefly, colleagues, I'm not going to add all the things that I added when we first discussed this bill. You remember them, I hope, about religious freedom, about the value of staying on the same time all year, about the circadian rhythm, being attuned to the natural rhythm of the sun. And while I appreciate the comments from my colleague from Senate District 13 about the value of natural light and exposure to daylight, that is particularly important in the morning. Our bodies benefit the most from light in the morning. And were we to stay on permanent daylight savings time, we would not have the value of that morning light at any time of year, and particularly in the winter when, given that our days are so short, we particularly need that morning light. Many people in the Northwest use artificial light, daylight spectrum light, early in the morning in the winter to correct the challenges from our brain chemistry. So one of the things that this bill will do is make sure that we don't have to have even more trouble with that going forward. There is no question that this bill has generated an enormous amount of controversy. You would not think that the time that we live in, the time of day it is, would generate so much mail on both sides of the issue. But my constituents and many of yours feel very strongly about this. They're about split 50-50. But in terms of health benefits, in terms of consistency, in terms of going with what our bodies are naturally programmed to do, in terms of allowing people whose religious calendars depend on being able to do certain things after the sun is up, permanent standard time is the best thing for all of us. I urge your aye vote. Thank you, Mr. President.
The question now arises upon third reading, final passage, Senate Bill 1548A. Those who are of the opinion the bill should be passed will answer aye as your name is called. Those opposed, no. Clerk, please call the roll.
Weber. Woods. Anderson. Bonham. Boquist. Campos. Dembro. Findley. Frederick. Gelser-Bluen. Gelser-Bluen. Gerard. Golden. Gorsuch. Hansell. Hayden. Jama. Knope. Lieber. Linthicum. Manning. Meek. Patterson. Brzezinski. Robinson. Brock Smith. Brock Smith. Solman. Steiner. Taylor. Thatcher. Gelser-Bluen. Brock Smith. Gelser-Bluen. President Wagner. Voting nay, Bonham, Bonham, Campos, Findley, Gelser-Bluen, Gerard, Hayden, Jama, Knope, Lieber, Manning, Patterson, Brock Smith, Taylor, Woods, 16 ayes.
Senate Bill 1548A, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, please read the next bill.